Hello, welcome back to another quick video from Proactive Security. My name is Matt Johnston. In this video, I want to answer a question with a little bit more depth that I get often about the AI revolution that we're in, the experience that we're in right now with AI being rolled out and deployed everywhere. And I answered this question in an interview that I gave last week, but I want to expand upon it a little bit more to give you some more depth and spend some time soaking in this question. I do cover this quite a bit in the presentation called The AI Revolution. If you've taken a look at that, you'll hear me kind of expand on this quite a bit, but I want to dive into it even more than I did in the larger presentation. But the basic question is people ask me, why is AI all of a sudden everywhere? And kind of a secondary question to that is, are we in some sort of new tech balloon? Is AI a balloon? And is there a risk of it popping? And if so, what does that mean for all of us? It's great questions because this technology does seem to have come out of nowhere. All of a sudden, it is everywhere. Pardon me for that alarm. All of a sudden, it is everywhere. It is in everything, and there's this massive push um, uh, to uh, to make that seen, to get it everywhere, to get it adopted by everyone. I mean, big tech is all in. If you were outside of the tech industry and didn't see this coming, um, just so you're aware, at the beginning of 2025, the AI revolution, that phrase was being used in the tech industry by all the CEOs all of a sudden. And this has happened a few times. I've observed this. So, for a little bit of my background, I've worked in big tech for over 25 years, almost 26 years now, and half of that directly in Silicon Valley for companies headquartered in Silicon Valley. A few of them, including some of the biggest in my sector, which is cybersecurity. Um, but this phenomenon has happened a few times, mostly in the last 10 years, I would say. But when there is some political or cultural shift that's happening, there is definitely you could definitely see coordination across the valley, across Silicon Valley. All of a sudden, all the executives start rattling off the same talking points. They seem to be pushing the same initiatives. They all seem to be on board with the same ideas. We've seen this a few times. Um, and it's really obvious once you see it. You've probably seen this phenomenon with like the media, right? All of a sudden, some event happens, and then all the different media outlets have reporters saying the exact same script, the exact same talking points. Same thing with politicians. You'll see this. It's almost like an order goes out, and everyone is on board, and they just say whatever needs to be said. Well, this also happens in Silicon Valley. And it's a weird phenomenon because you would expect a lot of these companies to be competitors, and they are, but there is a cultural and there is a, um, how do I say it? I guess it's just cultural, perhaps also political coordination that happens from one organization to another. It's just the fact that they are CEOs. They're in tech. There are events that they attend together. Davos is a good example of this. That's going on right now with the World Economic Forum. But there's other smaller gatherings, if you will, and some of them just do it in private communities. There are various Bay Area councils or groups that are different CEOs get together from different companies and they plan what they're going to do. We saw a lot of this coordination across tech and politics, of course, with the first Trump versus Hillary campaign and then the first Trump administration. We saw this where a lot of the tech companies were basically echoing the same political talking points and using their platforms to facilitate help for the Hillary campaign. So all that to say, this is not something new. The tech sector does seem to, when they've got an idea, when they've got something that they want to all push and do, they all seem to coordinate, rise up, and do this together. So that is something that we definitely saw in 2025 right away, right? Like right in January. It was like clockwork. All of a sudden, they all started saying the same thing. Investors also all of a sudden had the same questions. I used to listen into different investment and earnings calls from different companies in the Bay Area to see what's going on, and they all sounded very similar in terms of the tone and talking points around AI. And they started using certain words. They started saying the AI revolution. They started saying the year of AI adoption, and this was permeating multiple different investment firms, investors, as well as different tech companies. And so right away, I knew something was up. Um, so I kind of want to set the stage with that, just to acknowledge that, yeah, there was definitely a coordinated push by the technology leaders towards the end of 2024, but really with great force in 2025. And they had phrases for this new phenomenon. Now, personally, me and my peers, so I've worked in data analytics, which is the predecessor, or I should say the underlying technology upon which the LLMs and AI bots have been built and run still today. I've worked in data analytics professionally for a long time, decades. And so me and my peers who were neck deep in daily use of data analytics technology, machine learning, big data platforms, data analytics, etc., we were all kind of scratching our heads like, okay, why all of a sudden is all this interest in these platforms? Why is it all of a sudden coming out that these things are new? And so that was our initial reaction. We were skeptical, like, what's going on? Why is everyone all of a sudden talking about this? It's not new. It's not innovative. Sure, it has been repurposed and rebranded and renamed, and that is definitely a big part of the AI revolution, is kind of the renaming and the repurposing of technology. But why the sudden shift out of nowhere? Definitely caused us to be a little bit concerned and questioning what was going on, and a bit skeptical. In fact, my initial reaction was I thought this was just marketing. I didn't really believe that there was anything to this. I didn't believe the AI revolution would do anything or go anywhere. I didn't really believe that it was going to form into what it is today. Again, because I had worked with the technology for a long time, and CEOs do this of tech companies. They come up with an idea or a name, and they go market it. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Well, in this case, it worked. The marketing has prevailed, and that's what I want to talk about next. The second reason why the AI experience, the AI revolution, is certainly a balloon. And also why this phenomenon has spread everywhere all of a sudden. So the second reason is beyond just there is coordination politically and culturally in Silicon Valley. When the tech leaders want to do something, they definitely cooperate and leverage each other to implement great change, or try to, at least. So another reason is the tech industry. So you get to realize there have been periods since the dot-com boom, but really starting with the dot-com boom back in the late 1900s, when the internet was first becoming a big thing, and we had this big consolidation and transfer of wealth and activity and all that from the physical world to the digital world. Since then, there have been a few major breakaway moments in technology where a company has come along with something truly innovative or new, and there's been a massive adoption in the public of whatever new thing that they've proposed to us, and that has generated this wave of exponential growth. And with that, we've built up in the industry a few phenomenon. One is investors, private investor firms, and also investment firms that manage like big 401k portfolios. They have a lot of money, and they're always looking for what's the next. How can I anticipate the next big thing and get my investment money in that early, so that I can be part of that exponential massive wave of new growth? How do I get into Google in the startup phase before Google was a thing, get my money invested in them, and then see those shares explode in wealth over time as the company produces exponential growth? And the same thing was true with Meta and Facebook, right? If there's always those investors that say, "Oh, if I only knew to invest in Facebook, early on, I could have made all this money." Earlier in my career, it was Qualcomm, a company called Qualcomm. They're a chip manufacturer, if you're not familiar with them, primarily a chip manufacturer. But early on, that was one of the big waves was, oh man, if I missed the Qualcomm wave, if I only would have invested early, I could have made all this money. And so there's this drive, this insatiable drive within the tech sector. Take a sip of water, a little tickle growing. Excuse me, that was very rude. There's this insatiable drive in Silicon Valley with the investment community, also with tech leaders and innovators themselves, to be the next big thing, to produce the next big whatever, big technology push, big revelation, big new innovation that's going to capture the imagination of consumers and their wallets, capture investment firms, because there's all these VC firms floating around, venture capitalist firms floating around Silicon Valley that are looking for places to dump loads of money, again, to both generate the exponential growth and then to profit off of it. And so what you get is pretty much every CEO in Silicon Valley that I've ever encountered. And again, I've been working in this space for decades. They all participate in this. They all have this dream of being the next Jeff Bezos or the next Steve Jobs or the next Mark Zuckerberg or whomever, right? They all want to be that. The CEOs want to be the ones who were there when they hired the right people, they found the right person, and they formed or led the company that was the next great big thing. And then the investors also want to be there. They want to be the VC firm that put the money early into whatever that new startup was that had that exponential growth. And so you always have a lot of interest and pressure in big tech to produce that, but also to catch it. And so this also drives the acquisition market. A lot of companies and VC firms are looking for what's the new startup, and there's like a scramble within the tech companies to capture those new promising startups before they get too big, capture them from the VC firms before they get too big, so they can capture that growth. So that's kind of the backdrop you have to understand. There's an obsession in Silicon Valley with driving exponential growth financially through business innovation, technology innovation. As well as there's that same expectation. There's expectation on CEOs to be that innovator or to be the ones that find the innovation and build the company. And also there's the anticipation from the investors. And then there's also anticipation from the portfolio managers. Excuse me, again, get tickle. Because all of us who work for big companies have a company funded 401 or company sponsored 401k program. So every time we get a paycheck, part of our paycheck goes to these investment firms, and they have to figure out how to invest that money somewhere. So there's also pressure just from that phenomenon, like getting our money invested somewhere. Every time we get a paycheck, all that money, that influx of money goes into the market. It has to go somewhere. And so those organizations are also always looking for how can we best diversify those resources and get them where they're going to produce the most growth, because those investment firms want to be the ones that you invest your 401k in. Okay, so that's the reality. The other reality is Silicon Valley has been stalled and stagnant for a long, long time. In case you haven't noticed, there's been almost no innovation coming out of Silicon Valley for a very long time. Those big startups that made huge impact, Amazon, Google, Facebook, anybody else really recently that you can think of, they've all kind of made these massive shifts, made this massive impact, set this precedent and set these expectations, but then really nothing else has happened. There've been a bunch of little attempts over the last 10 to 15 years, like with virtual reality and autonomous vehicles and a few other kind of small call them like sub industries that popped up. The solar industry, batteries. The solar industry is kind of a different context. But my point is, there've been these different like waves of momentum that started to build, but they didn't really produce that exponential growth that everyone anticipated. They tended to fizzle out and die. And so Silicon Valley really has been stagnant for a long time. Really nothing new has happened. And then so that's been a big pressure on the CEOs. They know this. And so the strategy, probably the last 10, 15 plus years, has been mostly to maintain growth through acquisition. Most tech companies are just looking for the small startups, and they buy them, and they buy their customers with them, and they absorb them into their ecosystem, and that's how they're growing. But there's been none of that exponential growth and wealth generation that's been expected. So that's been a big pressure on the entire tech sector, which is also historically, at least for the last couple decades, led the stock market. The market has mostly, until recently, been invested in the biggest U.S. companies and foreign companies, but the top 10 companies in the Nasdaq or rated by a market capitalization, I should say, they've mostly been diversified across banks and classic companies, services organizations, financial institutions, energy, goods manufacturing and production, and tech. Tech has definitely kind of been at the peak there, but it's been pretty well diversified. But there's been, again, kind of helping and hobbling us along as an overall economy. Big tech has been a major weight in generating and maintaining that growth, but it's largely been through transfer growth and kind of small incremental progress, nothing really net big and net new. And so another phenomenon developed in Silicon Valley, and that was this weird phenomenon where recognizing the stagnation that no one's and the fact that the industry stalled, no one's really building. There's this technique that CEOs have developed where they'll do is they'll find something that is a popular and kind of saturated market with a clear winner, clear or company that just owns a particular market segment. What they'll do is they'll find a few things that people don't like about it. They'll elevate those as and exaggerate them as if they are significant problems to kind of get the rumor mill working and get people kind of all riled up around, what they don't like, the one or two things that they don't like out of 50 things that they do like about a particular product or service. But they'll start like exaggerating those frustrations in order to drive like a negative sentiment amongst consumers for whatever is the leader in this product segment that they want to go after. And then they will offer a substitution. They'll offer something that is usually nowhere near as good, nowhere near as robust, and they'll spin it as some sort of like innovative, different approach to whatever the problem is that we're trying to solve. And a really, really good example of this is the transfer of wealth that happened from Microsoft to Google through the Microsoft Office to Google G Suite or Google Drive phenomenon. So if you think about those two ecosystems by themselves, if you think about Microsoft Office and the Google G Suite's offering of like Google Drive and Google Docs and Google Sheets, etc. Microsoft Office clearly, hands down, has far more capabilities, far more mature products offering. They do way more things than Google does, and they do most of that way, way better. Google might have a few advantages here and there, but overall, if you're objectively looking at those two solutions from the outside and just saying which of these two approaches is better to Office documents, document management applications, clearly Microsoft has a much, much better, more mature and robust ecosystem and lots more features and all that stuff, much more mature products and all that stuff. But Google was really successful at poking at those few things that Microsoft didn't do well, including bloat. They came with this big story that, yeah, Microsoft has all these things, but it's really complicated. It's way bloated. It has all these other things. You have to install software. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to offer a cloud-based solution. It's going to be really, really simple. Not going to have very many features, just the most common and popular reasons that people write or make documents, and then we'll grow over time. And that was enough. That created this massive shift in consumers from one platform to the other. It didn't really do anything truly innovative. In fact, if anything, Google has been slowly trying to basically recreate what Microsoft Office has always been. And then Microsoft Office countered by saying, well, we can also do an online option, a cloud-based option called Office 365. And so now you've got the same thing. You can do cloud-based all your documents through Microsoft as well as you can through Google. But that's just a good example of how the companies in the tech sector have been trying to transfer wealth between each other, not really doing anything net new or interesting, just more of like poking at the other guy, making some reason why you shouldn't use them, and then trying to build a competing product, which is mostly mediocre in nature. And then they eventually kind of try to grow up into the promises that they've offered us. So all that to say, the tech sector has been stalled, nothing really happening. And then along comes AI and this idea of, well, here's something new. What if we can get behind this and propose that this is a net new thing that everyone should adopt, and we can come up with a whole bunch of value statements and a whole bunch of use cases and a whole bunch of reasons why everyone needs AI in everything that they're doing. Well, suddenly now Silicon Valley has the answer to all of their stagnation problems, all the reasons that they're stalled. They have a new thing to sell. They have lots of new reasons why everyone needs to incorporate this. It's all promises and dreams of the future. But also it gives them an opportunity because of those promises to reorganize their own companies and businesses, which had been, for the most part, tech sector has been declining over the COVID years. They had a massive expense in cash and capital. A lot of big tech companies were not doing well post-COVID because of all the money that they had to spend for all the reasons of COVID. And so they're all kind of not doing well already. A lot of them have been looking for reasons to lay people off or to reorganize or restructure internally or to sell off divisions or whatever. And now with AI, they've got a whole bunch of opportunities to do all those things. They can say, thanks to our adoption of AI, we no longer need a quarter of our people, and so we can lay all of them off, and that reduces their operating costs. It makes them look more profitable on paper, depending on how well they perform, whatever. It also gives them an opportunity to reorganize. They can say, well, we're going to invest in AI, and so now we're going to merge or change these departments. We're going to get rid of some people. We're going to sell one of our business lines. We're going to cancel or close a business line because it's no longer relevant. So they have an opportunity to reorganize and restructure their companies in the name of AI. They have a new thing to sell. They can tell you, we have this new innovative thing. It is the hot new thing that everybody wants. It's going to provide and produce all these things. Just listen to the AI revolutionaries like Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Larry Ellison. They'll tell you all the great new things that are going to come from this technology. And they want to capture all the investment on this and the attention of investors and VC firms by claiming to be they're the first ones, or that they are also investing in this new innovative technology. So investments in their companies and businesses are well-founded, and they want to attract new investors. So one of the companies that the company I was working for in the heart of this transitionary period, they kind of kept changing their tune, right? Initially they said, yeah, AI is not that really big of a deal. And then they started saying, well, actually, it is a really big deal, and all of our customers need it, and we are a leader and innovator in this space. And then once everyone else started rallying around that same thing, the CEO started saying, oh, but you know what? We've always been doing AI. We've been doing AI for 20 years now. It's in the ethos of who we are as a company, and it's in our foundation. And so they try to like do this song and dance again for all these reasons. They're just trying to entertain and capture the attention of customers and investors and all that. Again, to be part of the next wave of exponential growth. And so now what we've seen is this massive transfer of investment money around the idea of AI into all these tech companies. If you haven't noticed, I talk about this in the AI Revolution video, and I actually show you an example. I'm looking over my other screen here. I actually show you an example of how the top 10, 15 companies in the US based on market capitalization, how that shifted just over the last 2 or 3 years dramatically. Not only their value as individual companies, but the entire makeup of that top 10 list has completely changed thanks to the AI revolution. And so now, because we have this massive transfer of wealth into this phenomenon called AI, yeah, we've got a massive bubble, because if it can't produce, if it can't deliver on all those promises, if it can't drive that exponential growth, if those dreams and visions of the revolutionaries don't come into fruition, which so far it's not looking so good. OpenAI, it's rumored, is going to go bankrupt here pretty soon, which means fundamentally the technology is not able to do what they claim it can do. And all the promises keep getting delayed. It's always next year or in 2 years, or now it's in 5 years, right? Some of these projections on when we're going to finally get to realize the ROI for this investment in AI. When's it finally going to be here? When is the singularity finally going to happen? When are the robots finally going to be available for us to buy? That all keeps getting pushed out further and further into the future. And so it's looking like these were bad investments potentially, or it's looking like this bubble might burst. And when it does, this is the big challenge and the big danger. When it does, or if it does, all of that money that's been pushed into the tech sector, into NVIDIA and into Microsoft and Apple and Google and Amazon and Meta and XAI, all that money, once all that money that's been pushed into those tech companies to ride this wave of exponential growth by all these investment firms and customers, if that bubble bursts, all that money is going to go somewhere else. They're going to sell their shares, and they're going to try to protect what they can as that balloon deflates. And they're going to put that money into other market segments, which means those other markets and companies will rise in value, but the tech sector will crash dramatically is the risk. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not projecting that's going to happen, but that's the risk. So where did this come from? Why is it all of a sudden here? Why is it all of a sudden everywhere? A lot of it is just because this is the song and dance of Silicon Valley, and there's massive pressure to build this wave. And so they're trying to build the wave themselves and also push it bigger and bigger and bigger. But also, to answer the second question, are we in a bubble? Yes, absolutely. It is very obvious. If this technology doesn't produce the transformative outcomes that the revolutionaries are promising, and if it doesn't happen soon, investors are not patient. I don't know if you know this or not, but they're not. They want to know, at least tech investors, they want to see, if you've promised them something in 3 quarters, if you haven't delivered, if by the end of the fiscal year you haven't delivered, they're looking for somewhere else to put their money. Like they're very particular. So these investors, if they're not going to see promises or indications that their ROI is being is going to be realized, they're going to back out. And again, that could also cause this bubble to collapse. Already, there have been several companies reported have had to pull back on their investments in AI. Several companies that went through massive layoffs early on, claiming that they were going to adopt AI or claiming that they already had. Now they're starting to hire people back into some of those roles. So you're already starting to see cracks in the AI story that this doesn't seem to be really playing out the way everyone expected. So we'll see. Time will tell. I don't know. I'm not going to try to predict anything in this video. But just to answer the question, this is where this wave came from largely. There's multiple layers of the AI story. There's what I call the cheerleaders. These are the visionaries like Elon Musk and Sam Altman that are setting the vision and promising all the future things. And then there's the pushers, the ones who are kind of forcing the adoption and pushing the technology out everywhere. And those are the CEOs. It's really the CEOs of the tech companies who are pushing this everywhere, riding the wave that the visionaries are setting. And I do believe it was a coordinated effect across Silicon Valley. I do believe that they kind of got together and said, let's do this, and it has been launched, because I do believe that there is a cultural phenomenon behind this, an ideological phenomenon behind this, and I will save that for another video another time. But just want to answer those two questions. Why is it everywhere all of a sudden, and is there a bubble? Hopefully now you have answers to both of those, and we can go from there. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.